The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I'm your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show. Today we're going to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder and how a therapist in San Francisco has diagnosed it among patients who are suffering PTSD as a result of the economic downturn. Either they lost their investments or they lost their jobs. We've seen the result of that in a number of murder-suicides that have gone on, including, most tragically, the one in suburban L.A. where the 5 members of the family, the children, 3 of them, the wife and the husband, murder-suicide, they both lost their jobs. We're going to talk to Dr. Michael Bader in just a minute, but a little bit of unfinished business from yesterday. Yesterday, we were talking about the president's economic stimulus plan. And I had predicted correctly that it would, as it did, pass along party lines. But one thing I find a little bit disconcerting, are there no independent thinkers in the Congress any longer? Do they not recognize that this is an economic crisis? Are there any Republicans? Is there just one Republican who would think of voting yes for the package, not along party lines, but vote yes for the package because they believed it's the right thing to do? Or do all these guys and gals just march step behind what the leadership tells them to do? I don't understand this, Alan J.C. I could understand Democrats voting no. I could understand Democrats voting yes. I can understand Republicans voting no, but not one singular Republican voted in favor of this package. Does this not indicate to you, as it does to me, that there are some members of Congress that are putting party first and country second?
Yeah, Gary, that's clearly what it is. I mean, right now the Republicans are in a state of disarray. There's a lot of fighting for the hearts and minds of the party. You've got the Boehner faction. You got Eric Cantor jockeying for his place in the House. You have a lot going on here. You have the old guard versus the new guard. But one thing they're all lining up right now is to try and make this a political decision in terms of that if this stimulus package fails, they can say it is all the Democrats' fault.
But Alan, you and I covered both the Republican and the Democratic convention. And I remember clearly, and correct me if my memory is wrong, that the recurring theme throughout the Republican convention was country first. What was that, just a theme that means nothing in reality?
Yeah, Gary, this is a change that you can't believe in. I mean, this is the Republicans again there, and it's Washington. Washington is back to usual. The stimulus bill has its pork in it. The Republicans are the party out of power that are fighting tooth and nail to shore up their shrinking position. Washington has returned to normal right now. The election is over. These guys have at least till 2010 now before they have to run again for anything. Maybe a handful of senators next year may be running. But, these guys, this is like it, okay, we've passed go. We've, got our $2 trillion. And, here we go again. The Republicans, are on the right. The Democrats are on the left. and the country is in the back of their minds. Just the politics is on their forefront.
That's very, very unfortunate, and also so unfortunate since this was the first legislative initiative of the new administration. Okay, today we're talking about, I'm going to get PTSD over all of this before it's all over. Today we're talking about how people are depressed as a result of the economy. Today I went out in front of the New York Stock Exchange and I interviewed a gentleman who actually was suffering harder times prior to now. He's actually doing a little bit better now than he did before, and he has some advice for those of us who are suffering depression as a result of the downturn in the economy. Boys, could you please play that video for us? So many people are a little bit depressed about the way the economy is today. How do you feel about it?
Well, I'm not. I'm a firm believer in realities, and like somebody once told me, when your friend's out of work, it's a recession. When you're out of work, it's a depression. Me personally, I'm doing better now than I've done in many, many years, so I've lived through my depression, and what I've learned from it is that you've got to continue to look forward, understand that the only way out is straight ahead, realize that things don't get resolved in 6 months or a year or 2 years, and sometimes you're on a long trek, and the key is resiliency, low expectations. What always worked for me is once a month I visit people in the hospital and I see what they're going through, and I try to visit them and cheer them up, and when I walk out I said, gee, thank God I walked out, they didn't. And the fact that maybe a rent check bounces or I missed a train or a deal doesn't come to fruition, I look at it from a total different perspective. So there is problems with the economy now. You're going to have young, sharp entrepreneurs who are going to come up with great ideas concerning cash and carry businesses, not being involved in credit issues, which is a big concern now, maybe energy crisis, and these sharp young 25-year-olds are going to be making a fortune addressing the current problems. And, the concern about baby boomers who are losing their houses, hey, so instead of a 5-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house, they wind up with a 2-bedroom apartment. It's not the worst thing in the world. There are people who live worse than that. And, you got to be thankful for what you have. You've got to understand the problems. We've got to come together as adults and go forward. And thank God, me personally now, I'm doing better than I've ever done because I'm concerned with me personally as opposed to what's happening in the world. My economic situation has improved, and I think that's the way we all have to look at it.
Well, when you were down on your luck,
That's
you
right.
were depressed, so you can understand why people who are in that position that you used to be,
Yeah.
now newly in that position,
Yeah.
are depressed.
Yeah, I can understand it, but, we go forward. When people get bad health reports from their doctor, they become depressed. When your girlfriend leaves you, you become depressed. Nobody's denying depression. The idea is, will it ruin you or will it destroy you? A great team that goes into a championship game, two things happen. One team that loses falls apart the next season. The other team that loses uses it to structure their problems, to address them, to strengthen them, and then come on and do a great job the next year. So there are